Let's get into some headlines, shall we? And a lot of NFL news going on. Cowboys coach Brian Schottenheimer plans to meet with Micah Parsons today to discuss his actions during Friday's preseason game with the Falcons. The all-pro pass rusher was seen lying on the Cowboys' medical table and was the only player on the sidelines not wearing a jersey during the game. Parsons formally requested a trade out of Dallas at the start of the month after contract talks stalled with the Cowboys brass. A little less drama in Minnesota, but the Vikings are trading quarterback Sam Howell to the Eagles. In exchange for Howell and a 6th-round pick, the Vikings will receive a 5th-round pick this coming draft and a 7th-round pick next year. After trading Howell, the Vikings agreed to a deal with veteran Carson Wentz to back up J.J. McCarthy. Yes, Carson Wentz is still around, folks. Saints coach Kellen Moore said a decision on the starting quarterback will come in the next few days. The competition has been close this preseason between second-year man Spencer Rattler and the rookie Tyler Shuck. The Saints closed out the preseason yesterday against the Broncos and played the Cardinals in Week 1. Chargers general manager Joe Ortiz says he's hopeful that running back Najee Harris will be ready for Week 1. He's been on the non-football injury list since suffering an eye injury during a fireworks accident on July 4th. Harris signed a 1-year deal, $9.5 million with the Chargers after spending his first 4 NFL seasons in Pittsburgh. To Vegas, Raiders backup quarterback Aiden O'Connell broke his wrist in the final preseason game against the Cardinals last night. He will need surgery and is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. That leaves the Raiders pretty thin at the quarterback spot. You've got the starter Geno.
Well, the Browns' preseason finale was not exactly a strong finish for Shedeur Sanders. The 5th-round pick quarterback out of Colorado was sacked 5 times. He finished 3 of 6 for 14 passing yards on the day. For more, I'm joined now by CBS Sports NFL analyst Emory Hunt. Emory, first of all, Kevin Stefanski pulled Shedeur in favor of Tyler Huntley late in the 4th quarter. That was a big storyline coming out of this Browns game, and the game was on the line. Now, Huntley did lead the Browns to the game-winning field goal in that situation. Some might say, hey, why take this situational opportunity away from the rookie in Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, and it's interesting because we didn't know while watching the game real time whether or not he was injured or whether or not there was a benching or whether or not this was planned because he had 5 drives already, or whether or not Kevin Stefanski was trying to save Shedeur from himself. You know, it was already a bad game for him. Maybe he didn't want it to get worse, but when you don't have any clarity while we're all watching the game live, you have to speculate and figure out what's going on. And then when you get the post-game sound clips from Shedeur talking about, well, I was ready to go back in, I was on a bike, and then you hearing Stefanski talking about he's a competitor, it's like, well, what's going on? Hence the chaos and the chaotic nature around this quarterback competition.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those situations where you're saying, okay, are you trying to save him from himself, or, you know, see what you got elsewhere, or just win the game? Because at the end of the day, preseason games, yes, they don't count, but sometimes you still want to get the win.
They matter.
They do matter. Elsewhere in the Sanders family group chat, Buccaneers safety Shiloh Sanders was ejected for throwing a punch at tight end Zach Davidson. Now, if you're a guy on the fringe of making this roster like Shiloh is here, Emory, how do you let this happen?
You got to be smart. And this is something for Shiloh that we've seen going back to his time at Jackson State in terms of like targeting penalties, the most inopportune time to have a personal foul. We saw that at Colorado, some extended drive. So this is par for his mantra and what he has done, but you can't do this in this juncture of the game, and you especially can't do this on the heels of your brother having his worst game possible as a pro, because now it just looks like everything chaotic is coming from the Sanders family. But we know this is Shiloh being an aggressive player. He has to be smarter than that, because that looked to be inside the red zone. So now you extend the drive and you also get thrown out. And on top of that, they get further toward the goal line. So just a bad thing all the way around for Shiloh Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt Shiloh was watching Shedeur's game while he was warming up for this one, but you never know. You never know. But also, when you consider this from the perspective of Bucs management, I mean, how do they view a situation like this in a preseason game when, you know, you're trying to make a roster?
Well, it's probably just a one-off, because this is the first time we've heard Shiloh doing something out of pocket. all reports coming from everyone else that he's been very solid in camp. He's been a good teammate. He's been where he's supposed to be. He's been making plays, in terms of like on special teams, things of that nature. So this is just a one-off, but it just so happens it happened on the worst possible day in Sanders family football history.
Well, elsewhere in the National Football League, we've got the Saints quarterback battle. That's been a headline all preseason. Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck each getting extended playing time this preseason. But at the end of 3 games of tape, Emery, where does this quarterback battle stand?
I still give the edge to Spencer Rattler because we saw today him being able to go out there with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed for the first time ever. Because last year he was out there with the 2s and 3s and other guys like Mason Tipton, who he had a great rapport with. And so this was the first time we saw him with the starters on the offensive line and also with those wide receivers. So he played better than Shuck all throughout the preseason. They wanted Shuck to win the job because they extended this thing until week 3 of the preseason, and Shuck played okay. Rattler played okay plus, so it's not a situation where you're saying, okay, Rattler was, emphatically your guy for the future, but he's your guy to at least start this season, and we'll see if he plays himself into starting the entire season or if he plays himself into not starting the whole way. And Shuck gets an opportunity. I do feel like they'll find ways to roll Shuck into the mix, but Rattler will have to play himself out of it. And to be honest, it probably won't take much because the coaching staff has already decided that they want this guy to play and they want him to be the guy because they drafted him in the 2nd round.
Well, and they have shown previously in the Saints organization they're not shy to spell in another quarterback here and there, whether it's a couple plays or a couple packages in a game, or to just have, some players start one game, some another, right?
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. All right, 32 teams in the National Football League, 3 preseason games each. That's a lot of tape to watch, but this man, Emery Hunt, doesn't miss a snap. So let's start, Emery, with your all preseason offense.
I was so excited about this list because we were watching all these preseason games and we got a bunch of guys. We got a starting offense and a starting defense, but we're starting with the offensive side. As you look right here, we talked about Jackson Dart ad nauseum, but Travion Henderson, the way he started his preseason debut with the opening kickoff return for a touchdown really was something that stood out to me because he was just so dynamic as a returner, as a runner, as a receiver. He was finishing runs. He was getting into the end zone. And Calvin Banks, the New Orleans Saints quiet 1st-round pick, was out there balling the entire preseason. Hadn't given up a pressure, hadn't really done anything in terms of giving up a sack. He's been rock solid for whoever was back there at quarterback. So the Saints nailed their 1st-round pick with a tackle out of Texas, who many considered like, well, we don't know if he's really that good or if he's really, worthy of this type of praise. He's been proving everybody wrong. He's been proving himself correct because he was one of the top tackles coming into last year's college football season, and he went out there and balled out for the Saints. So the future is bright on the left side.
I mean, hey, speaking of tackles too, I like that you also had Marcus Bowe, the Giants rookie tackle out of Purdue, 5th-round pick. A lot of people saying, how did this man slide to the 5th round? Because he's bringing a lot of talent so far in the preseason. You
can even talk about, center Willie Lampkin, the 5'10", 290-pound undrafted free agent for the Rams, who's now hurt, but he was out there kicking butt and taking names as an undersized center up front.
Absolutely. Got to love these guys making the most of the opportunities to show what they can do. On the offensive side of the ball, what about the defensive side of the ball? I need to see your defensive all preseason team.
Excited about this team too, Madeline, because again, a lot of ballers. You talk about Caleb Murphy out of Ferris State making sacks, another Saint there. Nico Reed, we saw him in one of the first preseason games with a pick 6. But Ashton Gelati is another one that I really like. But Elijah Williams, I called a lot of his games at Morgan State. Actually was on the broadcast when he broke the all-time sack record in college. He came in as an outside linebacker, grew into a defensive end, can play any one of the techniques. He's been starring for the Minnesota Vikings up front. Aiden Huntington has also been outstanding. I talked about him when I was at the College Gridiron Showcase, how explosive and how quick he is for a defensive lineman. This game, the last one against the Rams, he lined up as a tight end to start the game, threw a devastating block, and went on the defense side and dominated there. Also runs down on kickoffs and everything. So he's been out there doing everything he can. So much so that Kevin Stefanski said after the game, he made the team. Like he said, I gotta let I gotta let Barry know, but he made it. Andrew Barry. He said, I gotta let Andrew Barry know, but he made the team. But also Malachi Moore of the New York Jets.
I was gonna say he stood out to me on that list, the Jet safety.
He was someone I was shocked he went that far down in the draft.
Yeah.
But he had great instincts, great ball skills. You see right here in the preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles, he was in man coverage, saw the football, tracked it over his shoulder, and made the interception. We were at joint practice, Giants-Jets, and he made a great play inside the green zone, 5-yard line, going in to knock a pass away out of the end zone. So great ball skills. He plays the right amount of aggressiveness, but under control. And when you're that smart, that savvy, have those playmaking abilities, and you're playing in that Jets defense, I think he's gonna start, and he's also gonna make a lot of plays throughout the week. So he will be on the regular season all Emory Hunt rookie team as well too, but he did a great job this preseason.
Emory Hunt with the all preseason offense and defense. But listen, in the preseason, we've got some winners and we've got some losers. We've got those who jump off the tape and play their way onto a roster, and those who perhaps fall short of expectations. So Emory, who leaves the preseason perhaps with more questions than answers?
You know, I'm always hesitant to talk about a single player, so I never really go that route. But the Dallas Cowboys stood out. Not just the entire team, because it's not about the team. It's about Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones has been playing all of us for a fool. I am still thinking he's going to get Micah Parsons signed, but you went through this entire offseason, spring, OTAs, minicamp, rookie minicamps, training camp, with dragging this whole Micah Parsons contract situation along. He hasn't been out there getting the reps with his guys and getting ready for the season. So if you do sign him at the 11th hour before the opening week kickoff, now he's going to have to get ramped up in terms of getting ready to play, which could hinder him in having that success right out of the gate. So I think Jerry Jones, although he's going on a media tour, he's on everybody's podcast, he's on your podcast, Madeline, he's on mine. None of these podcasts exist. But the fact of the matter is, he's out there, kissing babies, shaking hands, waving around,
taking pictures with Micah's mom on the concourse.
Exactly. So, and everybody's smiling. So are we being played, or is this deal going to get done? So right now, I would say he's a loser. We're probably the losers for
talking about it,
for falling for it.
I don't know. Either way, Micah Parsons seems to be sleeping well. At least he was on the training table during that third preseason game for the Cowboys. Not great optics there, but you know what? Hopefully they